today to present what I believe is not just an effective solution, but global, rapidly scalable breakthrough that can slow down the biodiversity crisis immediately. But before I go into the details, I'd like to just take a moment to talk about my journey to this point. It all began in on November 16, 2014. Like Captain James Cook, the first European visitor to Australia, I found myself in a very unfamiliar environment. And I was eager to explore and learn alongside my children this new world. But I quickly realized that we were exploring altogether different worlds. I was immersed in the sort of real world wonders of Australia, whereas I noticed that they were completely engrossed and much more motivated to look at these online worlds. And not only that, I also noticed that they were much more motivated to engage with these complex worlds and learn quite rapidly. And so this is the thing. I mean, of course, there's obvious differences between Captain James Cook and myself, but it was the question of time. When I went there, biodiversity crisis was a well-known fact, and I was quite aware of that, and I could feel the weight of it as well, because we're all part of the society and we all take on what we feel is something that's been a problem and that needs to be solved. So I sort of thought, okay, the next generation is kind of really less and less engaged with nature. How can we hope to solve the biodiversity crisis? Because it needs everybody to help solve it. And then I assumed, like I and my husband, like so many parents, we decided, well, we would like to bring them over to see our world. And we had some ideas on how we could achieve this. The thing is, my husband grew up playing video games, so he wondered if games could be a pathway. And quickly, of course, we realized that in order to achieve this, we would need to spend considerable amount of time in these online worlds that our kids were in. So, and not only that, what we also realized that was that the combination of this real and online would give some unique perspectives and unique solutions which we hadn't thought of prior to that. So we worked on a prototype, released a really basic, very basic citizen science app. Quest game, it's still quite active. What it enables is people to submit observations of plant and animals, and they go through the community verification process. They're awarded points based on the rarity for like the time of the year and the location. And then, what happened was it grew really popular. We gathered a lot of data, and we would submit it to the biodiversity portal so that researchers could look at it and use it for their research. So all was good so far, and I was really quite enthusiastic about it. We started approaching some of the scientific community, and I anticipated a warm embrace, because here we are bringing a whole amount of data that they couldn't imagine collecting themselves, and also because we were bringing new kinds of people, not just those that were interested in biodiversity, but also people that were more into the gaming side. And also we were bringing in a next generation. That is, we are looking at potential conservationists and taxonomists. But I was surprised because, in fact, that was not what happened. We noticed that some in the scientific community actually doubted the science, the scientific value of what it was doing, which was ironic, because the way we verify and validate the data is very much based on a blind peer review, so that there is no subjective noise involved. And then, there were simple things like even the word game had an issue, because some of the universities blocked the word game in any of the email addresses. And there were issues like, there were complaints that people might handle frogs, or they might just walk around these fragile habitats because they would want points for finding things, or that they would reveal the location of, oops, sorry. So yeah, there were issues that they were wondering that people might, reveal the location of threatened and vulnerable species, or even this, which was very interesting, was they felt like we might publicize the findings of invasives or pests, which would be bad because the orchard industry or the agricultural industry might, suffer from that. So at the end of the day, what we realized was that two things. One is this kind of response is basically, business as usual kind of response from institutions that are stuck in a legacy way of working. And the most important obstacle we noticed was that this was a 250-year legacy of practice of science, especially as it relates to natural science, that it was, it was not optimized for modern communications, nor for the modern way of participatory science. And there were other issues, like, for example, the scientists wouldn't agree on something as objective as taxonomy. So all of this made us rethink, how do we get people connecting with land? So we partnered with some indigenous knowledge holders, and we said we wanted to understand this. How would you define a healthy land? And one of the understandings from that was that it depends entirely on the consensus that is formed by people living on the land. And secondly, this was most interesting, that it had nothing to do, or at least it was really minor, about the taxonomy, and science played a minor role, and that all this biodiversity data, such as that you gather from, say, eDNA or bioacoustics or remote sensing, this is all trivial when it comes to solving the problem of biodiversity loss. So what we strived to do was create a system that would sort of bring minimal noise into the platform. We would encourage knowledge sharing, keep the noise minimal, which would mean stick to a blind peer review of the data, and maximal plurality, so that everybody could collectively decide who were the experts of the land based on, of course, their past work and reputation. And then we introduced a payments layers, a form of payment for a community that was performing services. Now, again, some of the conservationists were very unhappy about it because it indicated that there was something disruptive associated with biodiversity. And it also meant that we were somehow undervaluing volunteerism. But at the end of the day, we had to look at our community, who were pretty happy with the fact that there were payments. And so we took all these understandings and came to this conclusion that a platform had to have these four to engage the community. And one would be, it has to be quite engaging interface. It had to be grounded in science. And then it had to be participatory and have the right incentive structure. So what did we create? This was just the traction for the early basic prototype we created. So these were the three things that we knew had to be there. For example, the experience, engaging interface, and I'll just share a quick video of so it's So this is the game that's going to be released shortly. It incorporates various elements, as you could have seen there. And then, as I spoke to you earlier, it had to have a financial structure underneath it, and BioToken is the token that's going to be the oil that makes the whole ecosystem function. And this, sorry, I forgot one of the things, which is, remember I said it had to be grounded in science. So this is the oracle of life where we have validators that go on there and they verify the data, and then they validate the data and they get payments in return for that. There's a lot of math and economics that goes behind it. I won't go into the detail, but all these three combine to create what we call the realms, which is when you download the app, it's not just a game, it's a means for having fun, surely, but it's also conduit for sharing knowledge, and it's a MVP tool, and it's a tool to sort of translate and transmit stories from 60,000 years ago. All these three combined is a realm. I created one for this university in the area around here. It's quite easy to create, takes a few minutes. Basically, this is present in the game. As you can see that map there, that's what you see in the game. And those gray triangle quadrilaterals you see there, these are all, these represent sets of data. And if you're lucky, as you're playing the game, you could come across one of them, which would be an NFT. It could be, portal to another virtual network state that has got a land that it's managing, or it could be a discount to an eco-resort that's promoting the work it's doing on ground, or it could just be a spirit of the realm that gives you enormous powers in the game itself. There's a lot of use case around that. A realm basically has huge amounts of data around it, predominantly about the taxa present, but also about how much is the community doing, what is it doing, where is it doing, and when it is doing. The key thing is any citizen science app in the world, any database with biodiversity data in the world, that can be fed into this realm so that we have a clear picture of what is there. I'm just showing a list of the current players who are playing in this realm here. And these are the things they're recording. And we also indicate the species they could potentially find for more points. The idea being you want as comprehensive a data set as you want. So incentives are key to everything in this game. And you can also add stories about the realms. And lastly, maybe I should just quickly go over it. We estimate the time you spend in the green outside walking around and convert that into, say, physical health benefits or mental health gains based on research. It's not our own, but it's from the published research. We also give information around the SDGs that you could report on when you're reporting regarding the work you're doing on your realm. This is our traction to date, and we believe we'll have about 1 million realms by next year. We've just released the realms, and I think the reason I'm excited about it and believe that it'll be that number is just the amount of activity we are seeing now. And so what I'd like to say is here is one school that has been pretty active in monitoring what's happening in their realm. But I'd like to invite you all to, please go create a realm and go outside, engage with the richness of life around you. As you can see, in this area, there's 742 species. Obviously, there's a lot we are missing. So please go out, engage with it, listen to its voice. And if you have trouble, we have Land AI that will guide you through it initially. And over time, you can teach your AI what to not talk about or what to talk about. And at the end of the day, we all need to be custodians. And only then, I think, we can give Earth a chance. I mean, of course, Earth will be fine, but life on Earth will not be, so we can do our part. Thank you.